What's up, guys? Spenny. The single biggest hoax being pulled on the American people right now is that the right and the left are both equally violent, and everybody needs to disavow political violence. I mean, we obviously disavow political violence, but there's just none of it. You got a supply and demand problem on the right, that's for sure. But on the left, boy, their cup runneth over. Just moments ago, man has been charged with having explosive materials near DC Church, hosting mass for, and the AP of course leaves this out, for Supreme Court justices that he hated. Oh my. A New Jersey man has been arrested on charges that he had explosive materials in his possessions. Washington DC Church, not just some explosive materials, like tons of explosive materials. He could have blown up the entire church. Louis Jerry of Vineland, New Jersey, was charged with possession of destructive devices on Sunday outside of St. Matthew's Cathedral. St. Matthew's Cathedral is a massive church in Washington, D.C. Supreme Court justices usually attend the annual Red Mass. No justices went to this year's celebration. Maybe that's why he didn't light the explosives. I'm not sure. Police officers were clearing the area before the ceremony when they saw Jerry setting up a tent on the steps leading to the church. He'd been barred from the premises previously and was arrested. He refused to move. Jerry told police he had explosive devices and said, "You might want to stay back and call the federales." According to a police report, Jerry was also holding a butane lighter in a bag containing vials of yellow liquid. The tent investigators found what appeared to be parts of a making destructive device. He described the devices as grenades and explosives containing nitromethane. This is exactly what the kind of bomb that Trump's would-be assassin, Thomas Matthew Crooks, was making. It's the exact same material. They found a ton of the stuff in his bedroom, and rubber band securing the fuse for detonation. Police also said they found paperwork in his possession that expressed significant animosity towards the Christian church, Jewish people, and Supreme Court members, and ICE. Oh, would you look at that? You know, sounds like a Trump supporter to me, right? Jerry's represented by an attorney, public defender, District of Columbia. Okay. Who is he trying to go after? Well, Amy Coney Barrett attends this church. 200 explosive devices and a manifesto calling for attacks on the Supreme Court, Catholics, Jews, and ICE. Sounds like a great dude. More left-wing violence. Leftists arrested this Sunday with 200 explosive devices outside of the Supreme Court, where Amy Coney Barrett, along with other Catholic members of the Supreme Court, attend church. Get a manifesto. Left-wing sociopath was trying to blow up one of the biggest churches inside of Washington, D.C. Goodness gracious. So he camped outside of the church with his explosives, presumably, you know, so this is what it looked like, presumably to see a member of the Supreme Court coming in, maybe to detonate. Jeez. He camped outside of a green tent, large cache of handmade destructive devices, according to the affidavit. During negotiations with officers, he handed them a notebook where he espoused his hatred for, well, President Trump and so on. You can imagine him being called far right. Here's the scene, ladies and gentlemen. At some point you have to ask yourself, like, and this is, by the way, the church, this is St. Matthew's in Washington, D.C., is a massive, massive Catholic church right in the heart of the city. It's a huge church. It's a beautiful church. I've been to weddings at this church and various other events. At some point, you have to ask yourself, I mean, like, they shot Trump in the head. They shot Charlie. They've committed obscene acts of terrorism. They just shot up an ICE facility, shot up another Catholic church, a transgender whatever in Minneapolis, did a mass shooting at a mass Catholic church. This kind of stuff has to be taken extremely seriously by the authorities. Thankfully, it is, for maybe the first time in my life. The Trump administration just wrapped up a Antifa roundtable at the White House, and they were talking serious about destruction of left-wing terror groups. Here's President Trump, Kash Patel, and Pam Bondi talking about this. It is a political problem. It's also a spiritual problem. And it's a problem wholly and totally existing in the right now on the left, and probably always actually on the left. But nonetheless, something that we need to talk about. Oh, I forgot, like Brett Kavanaugh, the guy who was trying to kill Brett Kavanaugh. That guy was just charged, and so on and so on. What a nightmare. Ladies and gentlemen, here's President Trump strong from the White House on left-wing violence.
To be our schedule. It should be clear to all Americans that we have a very serious left-wing terror threat in our country. Radicals associated with the domestic terror group Antifa that you've heard a lot about lately, and I've heard a lot about them for 10 years. And other far-left extremists have been carrying out a campaign of violence against ICE agents and other officials charged with enforcing federal law. In Chicago, anarchists have surveilled at least 4 local ICE facilities and posted diagrams of the buildings online, meaning nothing but bad, accompanied by photos of specific ICE agents that they're targeting, one in particular who's a top person and a great patriot. In July, approximately a dozen Antifa-aligned militants stormed the ICE facility in Texas and then lured officers out of the building before firing dozens of rounds at police. They were crazy, frankly, shooting one Texas officer in the neck. And in Portland, Oregon, Antifa thugs have repeatedly attacked our officers and laid siege to federal property in an attempt to violently stop the execution of federal law. Everything we're doing is very lawful. What they're doing is not lawful. And what the governor and the mayor of, as an example, you could say of Portland, and you can say certainly of Chicago, it's not lawful what they're doing. They have to be very careful. In addition, 2 weeks ago, radical left terrorists in Dallas conducted a sniper attack on a local ICE facility, killing 2 people and leaving behind a note that read, "Hopefully this will give ICE agents some real terror." That's bad. This attack came the very same month that Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a far-left extremist who inscribed the words, "Hey, fascist, catch," meaning catch the bullet, onto the bullet shelf itself. The epidemic of left-wing violence and Antifa-inspired terror has been escalating for nearly a decade. At universities, Antifa has organized riotous mobs to attack campus speakers. I see it all the time. And these are agitators, anarchists, and they're paid. And you'll find that out. You'll be finding it out very soon. You should see what we have on these people. These are bad people. These are people that want to destroy our country. We're not going to let it happen.
We're not going to stop at just arresting the violent criminals we can see in the streets. Fighting crime is more than just getting the bad guy off the streets. It's breaking down the organization brick by brick. Just like we did with cartels, we're going to take the same approach, President Trump, with Antifa. Destroy the entire organization from top to bottom. We're going to take them apart. Thanks to your bold leadership and the designation of Antifa as a terrorist organization, which is exactly what they are, Americans will no longer tolerate their unhinged violence.
Mr. President, the American people gave you a sweeping mandate in your victory in this election cycle, and they demanded safety and security for our citizens. And your administration, with your leadership, has provided us with the resources that we need, which is a whole-of-government approach to go after criminals absolutely everywhere, not just outside of this country, but within this country. And that takes a whole-of-government approach. The interagency seated up here with the Department of Homeland Security, our Attorney General, our Deputy Attorney General, and your White House staffers, and including Stephen Miller's leadership, has allowed us to go out there and map out these networks. What we are doing at the FBI is simple. It does not require rocket science. We are following the money. Money never lies. And that's what it's going to take to bring down this network of organized criminal thugs gangbangers, and yes, domestic terrorists, because that's what they are. They are harming everyday citizens in every single one of our communities. And the folks you see here on the right and left, they're some of the bravest men and women we have today. They're reporting the stories live time because the mainstream media won't cover it. They're putting their lives on the line. They're standing up for the flag. The least we can do is stand up for them. So you have my thanks. I read more of your stories than I do theirs because you guys are putting out the truth. And we deserve a country where you are protected as equally as they are. We, in this FBI, will go after with the criminals with a vengeance. We will not rest until we find every single seed, money, donor, organization, and funding mechanism that we have. And I want to echo the Secretary's comments on Scott Bessent, who's allowing us to map out these networks through their financial criminal activities, which has been going on for decades. And I would like to remind the American public, they built this disease temple of corruption over decades. And in 8 short months, Mr. President, you have crippled their foundation because of your leadership here, because of the interagency, because of people like Deputy Attorney General Blanche, and because of Attorney General Pam Bondi's fearless leadership to go after criminals wherever they are. They will not be able to hide. They were able to hide and conspire with prior administrations, and we are exposing their corruption from within. And we will go to every single city in this country under Operation Summer Heat and the other operations we are doing at the FBI to bring these criminals to justice. We will arrest every single one of them from whatever perch you sit in, private or public, no matter how your goal or your ambition is. It will be crushed by the Constitution because the American people deserve law and order, and that's what we're going to give you.